First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister use my son's yacht for her wedding? My son Thomas passed away a year ago at the age of 25. He was such a sweet soul. He was kind and sympathetic. Despite having suffered so much, he still had a joyful smile. He wanted to be an engineer, but unfortunately he couldn't continue his education. He was involved in a car accident and had a severe injury and became paralyzed. I did everything I could to help him regain his life, but what happened was devastating. We were spending time at the hospital while my family were getting together celebrating birthdays, weddings, etc., and excluded me and Thomas. I asked them to show up, at least show emotional support to Thomas, but they didn't visit. I took Thomas home and I became his primary caregiver. I found that Thomas was home 24/7 with no family visiting us, even on holidays. Every time I complained, my sister would suggest I put Thomas in home care. Eventually, I stopped begging them to visit and include Thomas in their events and check in on him. They treated Thomas like he was dead. He suffered from anemia. It affected his heart function and his health was getting worse. 4 months before he passed away, I decided to achieve at least one goal he had in his mind. He always wanted to get his own yacht and wanted to buy it himself. I sold a land I had for 5 years and I bought a yacht. I told him that it was his. He was overjoyed. We started spending most of his time there, on weekends and on holidays, till he suddenly passed away, and it was devastating. I couldn't visit the yacht till 6 months after his passing, as this is where I remember him the most. My family visited, made Facebook tributes, hanged pictures of him, and visited his grave. I was still upset with them, and I kept my distance. But last week, my mother and sister were visiting and asked if they could use my son's yacht for my sister's wedding this summer. I declined, but they talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas's yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past, and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite, and called me selfish to punish them for Thomas's death. My brother said I was wrong because the family is keeping his memory alive by talking about him, and that I should get therapy, otherwise I'll be causing people to cut me out. Now for the top comments. OP, if they did not visit once while he had all this, say, fine, you can use his yacht as many times you've visited him during that time. Not a day-haul, by the way. This, not a day-haul. So sorry you're dealing with this. Not a day-haul for this. Very sorry for your loss. But you might benefit from therapy for you, not to appease your family. Thank you. I have a group of people who also experienced what I've experienced, and I meet with them every week and we talked for hours. Before that, I was in therapy. My brother doesn't know that because of how distant and the rest of the family have been. Not day-haul. They talked about how expensive it is to rent a yacht and that mine was perfect. I corrected my sister, told her that's Thomas's yacht. Thomas, who they refused to visit and comfort during his dark times. My sister denied all that and said she didn't come to talk about the past and that as her brother I should help out. I argued with her and my mother after they said I was declining out of spite. So what if you are declining out of spite? She contributed negatively to your son's last few weeks. She's lucky you aren't agreeing to it, only to sell the yacht a day before. I mean, they even admit he has something to be spiteful for. They know what they did is wrong. They just don't care. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother and his wife out after they asked my wife to host their baby shower 2 weeks after she had a stillbirth? My wife and I were expecting our first baby boy together. We've been married for 3 years and my wife had 1 miscarriage before, and we were really optimistic about this pregnancy. But the unexpected happened and my wife had a stillbirth 2 weeks ago. It all happened so fast. We thought we planned for everything, but all that was unexpected. We were devastated to say the least. We haven't gone out nor talked to anyone during these times. My mom and family visit to check on us. They bring meals, books, and they ask how we're doing every day. Yesterday, my brother and his wife were visiting as well. His wife's pregnant with their second, and the moment they sat down, she started talking about her baby shower. My wife and I were getting uncomfortable as she went on about what they're going to do. My mom was sitting there when my brother's wife looked at me and my wife and asked my wife if she's willing to host her baby shower party, We were stunned. My wife almost cried while my brother just sat there, arms folded, and smiled at us. His wife said no one is available, so she asked my wife to do it, and that I'll be nice for her to change the mood. I immediately lashed out on her and told her to stop because she was acting selfish and inconsiderate of what we're going through. She played dumb as I reminded her that we just lost our son and asked how could she possibly think it's okay to even ask something like that. My brother told me to calm down, but I lost my temper. My wife went inside a room and I kept telling them what an insensitive request my sister-in-law just made. Shockingly, no one thought it was a big deal. We got into an argument and my brother blew up when his wife started crying. I told them to leave and my mom didn't like that I was yelling at them and lashing out. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. She berated me for half an hour and told me to wait till they calmed down and apologize because I was out of line with how I behaved. I haven't talked to them. My dad says whatever happens, I shouldn't treat them like that and that my anger was misplaced and I hurt the people around me, which was unacceptable. Two things to point out. I'm not sure about them lacking intelligence because they're both intelligent enough to obtain a degree. My sister-in-law is a school secretary and my brother is a dentist. Also, I really thought my wife's family were worse because they wanted to have some of our baby's things to take with them before leaving town after they came. We're in low contact with them. Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. I hope you guys are getting okay. Secondly, literally reading that filled me with anger on your behalf. How insensitive and selfish can you be? Also, seriously? Planning a baby shower will change your wife's mood? She's not upset because she banged her toe. She lost a baby. Your wife was almost crying and they still didn't stop? You were well justified. This is perfect. I'm livid just reading the post. Sister-in-law and brother are truly horrible people. I genuinely can't think of exactly what thought process led them to think this is a reasonable request. After they left, my mom reminded me that they're the ones sending meals and checking on me and my wife. Yeah, and now you know why. Not out of love, but out of attempting to buy compliance through indebtedness and guilt. You don't owe them a damn thing. There was no way in hell any reasonably adjusted person would be that tone-deaf. That was malicious, and I admire your restraint. Not a-hole. Yeah, I felt awful after my mom told me that. She managed to make me feel as if I created this terrible situation. Not a-hole. Forget them for now and talk to people who love and support you. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law is tacky as hell and completely oblivious to decency and social norms. Your mom as well, and fortunately, your brother should have told her to shut the F up about her baby shower. You protected your wife as best you could, considering the circumstances. Sending people aid when they're having a crisis does not give you the right to treat them like robot slaves. The next story is titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that suing would be pointless even though it means a lot to her? I feel like an a-hole even thinking about this, but I also feel she needs some hard truth. When me, 25 male, and my sister, 27 female, were 9 and 11, my mom had a baby, our sister. She lived for 6 weeks before passing away from SIDS. As most can imagine, my mom was never the same since. The same day our sister passed away, CPS stepped in and removed me and my sister from the home. I didn't know why at the time, but she was awarded custody of us 2 years later. During this time, my sister, who was placed in a different home, was dealt a horrible hand, which I can't explain here. But because of this, when she was released into my mom's care, she was just broken. Started drinking heavily at 13, dropped out of school, etc. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. My sister never went into full detail about the events she was faced with, thank God, because that probably would have landed me in jail. Anyways, my mom spoke of suing DHHS for years following that. Went to law school to become a lawyer to better her case and everything. 8 months ago, she put in the paperwork to sue DHHS for taking us back then. The next week, I was helping Mom move and came across all the paperwork and files from our DHHS case years ago and I took them. I shouldn't have, but I did. I went digging. Turns out that my mom's ex-alcoholic boyfriend was a main suspect in my sister's passing. So we were lied to. It wasn't Sid's. It also stated in the paperwork that my mom was given a strict order to go no contact with her ex while we were in state custody, and she failed to do so. That's why it took her 2 years to get us back. Given that I now know all of the information, I want to explain to my mother that suing would be a giant waste of time and money. She has asked us to help her out with lawyer fees and to speak on the stand on her behalf. My sister, still broken, has outright refused and has gone no contact. She was older and knew then that my mom was hiding something about the case and doesn't trust my mother and holds a lot of resentment. Anyways, would I be the a-hole if I told my mom that she shouldn't sue and that now that I know everything about the case, I will not be vouching for her on the stand? Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry you have been through all this. If you haven't already, get yourself some therapy. I have gotten myself into therapy and it has helped me a lot. Unfortunately, my sister hasn't been so fortunate. She tried getting help through therapy and was basically told that she was lying and it was all in her head. What kind of awful therapist told her that? Did multiple therapists say this independently or was it just one? It was 3 different therapists, which is even more messed up. I think they thought she just wanted meds, honestly. Was it when she was younger? I hate to say this, if you haven't considered it, but your mom could have collared the treatment. She checked herself into therapy on her own when she left our house at 16, and then tried again 3 years ago because she still has nightmares and severe post-traumatic stress disorder. The last therapist she went to told her that she has kids now. If she was to get diagnosed with mental health issues, then it would be possible that CPS would look into her stability and possibly deem her unfit. She immediately pretended to be okay and took herself out of therapy because of that one comment. She won't go back. Not a a-hole. As much as your mom tries to play herself as the victim, she's at fault. She lied to you. She contacted her presumably dangerous boyfriend when she was ordered not to, and maybe most importantly, she denied therapy for your sister. Mom refused to get her into therapy for help because I dealt with the death of a child and worked through it myself, so you can work through this yourself too. That's appalling and shows your mom's true character. How selfish and a crap human does someone have to be to say something like that to her clearly traumatized and hurt daughter? It sounds like the "she was never the same since" is something she wants you to believe so as to use it as an excuse whenever she screws up / mistreats you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I will never be in her stepson's kid's life? My mom and stepdad married when I was 6 and his son was 9. We have never been close and he has never cared for a relationship with me. From the ages of 8 to 15, we fought like crazy and he made the fact we'll never be family clear to me. He also doesn't like my mom or our extended family. He has not said a single word to me in almost a decade and I'm fine with it. He invited me to his wedding because of the pressure from his dad, but did not speak to me. Neither did his wife. I actually didn't want to go, but my parents were really hoping it would bring some good, so I went for them. But after that, he decided that from then on I would not be included in anything regardless of whether his dad wanted him to include me. He and his wife had a baby recently and there is a small celebration planned. I am not invited, but my mom wanted me to send a gift anyway. I told her that wasn't going to happen. She said it would show me attempting to be a good aunt. I told her I will never be his kid's aunt, and that I am not part of his family and he is not part of mine. That I understood it was hard for her and my stepdad to see us not getting along, but he has made his feelings clear and I have no interest in forming a relationship with this child. I told her that child will always be a stranger to me. And it's okay if they have emotions about that, but they can't change things. Because the lack of relationship is a fact by now, and not something that will change. She was upset and told me I should still care because I am an aunt. Whether he likes it or not, and whether I like it or not. She said we are family, and we lived as siblings for a large part of our life. My mom told me to consider my actions, and now I'm wondering if she is right in any way. I don't know if I was a little too harsh when I have 0 issues with the baby. It's just a fact I will never be their aunt. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. No way. You shouldn't be expected to continuously go above and beyond for someone who's made it clear they don't want to have a relationship with you. Exactly. What she's doing is guilt-tripping you. Probably because you've been the most reasonable one up to date. It's easier to guilt you to keep at the relationship than try and convince her stepson to not be an A-hat. It's really unfair to you. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Relationships require consent of both, and failed relationships are a natural thing. Forcing one side to approach a side that doesn't care or want a relationship is folly. Not the a-hole. Just because your parents got married doesn't mean you're siblings. He made clear what he thinks of you, so why should you even think about being an aunt for that child? Exactly. Following the same logic, OP is not an aunt to this child. Not the a-hole. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. First story is titled, Update. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my half-brother to have the same name as me? Original story. This is a really weird question, but for some reason it's turned into a whole issue. When I-16 male was born, my parents named me Giuseppe after my grandpa on my mom's side. My parents divorced when I was 5, but my mom got sick when I was 12 and passed away a year later, so I had to go live full-time with my dad. 2 years ago, my dad started dating Kaylee until they got married. I'm not close with Kaylee, but that's not because we don't like each other. We just don't talk a lot, and I'm always staying with my grandma or uncle on my mom's side when I'm not at my dad's. They found out they're pregnant months ago and also learned it's a boy. Ever since, Kaylee keeps saying she also wants her son to be named Giuseppe because she likes the name so much and how it sounds. I straight up told her that's my name and would be weird having my half-brother having the exact same name as me. Kaylee said it wasn't weird at all, and I don't own the name, so I can't say it's mine. She seemed really mad that I called it weird and said I should get used to it because that's the name they're deciding on. My dad backed her up at first, but we talked a little more. I just told him it did feel right for us two to have the exact same name, and maybe that could be a middle name or something if she likes it so much. He talked to Kaylee about changing it as a middle name so the first name can be something else, but she just got more mad. Now she says I'm ruining this whole experience by making a big deal of her name. My dad is in the middle. He's willing to back me up and not let Kaylee name their baby that, but says I should just let it go. My uncle, Dad's brother, and some of my friends agree it's weird, but Kaylee's being super cold, so I don't know if I'm wrong here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Personally, I find that really weird. I'm surprised your dad agreed to it at first. Dad only agreed because she's the one usually in charge and can withhold fun time. Not the a-hole, OP. That's just wrong, and I think the middle name would be fine, but should probably call him by the middle name then. Call me cynical and hardened to toxic families, but my worst assumption is she wants to replace this kid that she likes less with a new one by the same name. She's trying to cause a divide, and OP should keep making us think about it. Not the a-hole. That's weird as F for two brothers to have the same name. Where is the baby's sense of identity when he literally has the same name as his brother? Where is his individuality? They did this to Vincent van Gogh, and it messed up his head. In the Netherlands, it was very common to reuse a name if a previous child was stillborn or died very young. Happened to my father-in-law, who got the name of a brother who deceased before he was born, 1943. Not the a-hole, obviously. If it were me, I would have said, I'm honored you would name your firstborn after me. I would be such a pretentious prig about it that she would no longer want to use the name. Yes, this is awesome. Maybe also double down, and since Opie's already so much older, pretend to muse aloud, I bet a lot of people will think he's really mine since it's named after me. So let's call him Junior in public. Now for the update 2 months later. My little brother was born last week, and I'm still the only Giuseppe in the family, and my grandpa. I did like some of you were saying to do, and had another talk with my dad to get him to understand. I'm glad everyone agreed it was super weird, and for bringing up that it could cause some identity issues in the future if we have the same name. Plus, the fact that it feels like she's trying to replace me and take a name away that she didn't even know about until she met me. My dad actually heard me this time, and he said he was sorry for not fully thinking about how this would make me feel. He listened more when I brought up the identity thing and how it could cause problems for us in the future, so thanks for mentioning that. But after that, he still wouldn't talk to Kaylee about changing her mind. My uncle, his brother, and his other family actually started giving him shit after I told them. They told him that's weird AF, and my uncle even told Kaylee too, which made her super mad. So after, my dad was like, okay, he's not gonna be named that at all. They had lots of fights over it because Kaylee wouldn't let it go. But my dad said there was no way in hell the baby was also gonna be named Giuseppe, and they were gonna have a big problem if she tries to name him that. Not gonna say it threatened to end things, cause I wasn't in the room when they had their fight, but it was pretty big the way he said it. So yeah, she gave up, but she was being super bitchy to me for a while. It was awkward, but whatever. I was just glad she stopped with the name thing. The name they gave my brother isn't close to mine at all. Anyways, he's really cute. My dad says he looks just like me when I was born. Gonna be boring until I can play with him in a few months. Lol. Kaylee's still being different, but she doesn't say anything when I'm holding my brother. He cries a lot, but I love him a lot, and happy he's not Giuseppe 2.0. I find it weird that your dad didn't talk to Kaylee after you spoke with him. He only talked to Kaylee after his family tore into him. He is a spineless partner. If he was spineless, he wouldn't have stepped up in the end. I agree it didn't start well, but I think it didn't give thought to how big of a deal it actually was. Yes, very dense, I agree. But he did in the end put his foot down, and that is notable. Being spineless would have been bringing it up and then dropping it when she pushed back. If he was spineless, he would have 2 sons named Giuseppe. Give him a little credit. That sounds promising. Has anyone actually seen the birth certificate though? I'm not sure I'd put it past Kaylee just naming him Giuseppe anyway. Lol, yeah, my dad was there when they filled out the forms. This is a missed opportunity for you to go by OG, original Giuseppe, after your brother was born. I'd rather be the OG, only Giuseppe. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at my mother-in-law for calling my son the wrong name? Even before my wife and I started to think about kids, her mother has wanted us to name a son after her father. Let's say the name is Sherman. It's not actually Sherman, but think of something equally generational, or old-fashioned perhaps. The important thing is, from day one, I have absolutely hated the name. At the end of 2020, my wife and I welcomed the baby boy to the world. Hooray! But since the day we announced the gender, her mother ramped up the Sherman campaign. You might even say it was to the point of scorched earth. Luckily, my wife and I gave each other 10 no questions asked rejects when it came to names. Obviously, Sherman was the first to go. Ultimately, we named our son something we both really liked. Let's say his name is Alexander. Over the past 3 months, my mother-in-law has been a constant presence. In the beginning, that was a really nice thing. Having an extra pair of hands was a godsend when the wife was waking up every hour to breastfeed and I was doing laundry, bottles, and 5S'ing on a never-ending loop. And frankly, it continues to help. She makes us dinner, she takes care of the baby, etc. But you can probably guess where the story's going. With increasing frequency over the last few weeks, she's taking to calling our son Sherm or Lil Sherm. She never calls him Alexander or Alex. The first dozen times I let it slide. The next dozen times it started to grate on me. The next dozen times, I started to remind her to call him by the right name in a joking way. The next dozen times, I reminded her in a matter-of-fact way to call him the right name. All throughout, I've told the wife about my building annoyance. We have a tacit agreement that we would handle our own families. She said she would talk to her mother about it. To be honest, I don't know when she did or how forceful she was, but clearly nothing had changed. Today, I blew up at my mother-in-law. I told her how disrespectful it was to me and Alex that she continued to call him by the wrong name. That I didn't want him to be confused about his actual name. That she should call him by his real name or not come by anymore. She didn't really say much in response. I think she said something about how she's just been trying to help. She got her things, said bye to my wife, and left. My wife thinks I'm overreacting. She says it's just a nickname, no different from buddy or pal. Now she's especially upset because there's more stuff for the two of us to do. She hasn't said outright that I should apologize or anything, but I feel like she wants me to. Ultimately, I feel bad that I put my wife in this situation given she's still recovering, and maybe it really wasn't that big a deal. But I also don't feel bad making myself clear to someone who clearly is disregarding my wishes in my own house with my child. So I guess, am I the a-hole? To my wife, for not just sucking it up given all the help her mother has provided and might continue to provide? Edit. Many of you are asking why I did correct her from the get-go. I don't know how many of you have had kids, but in those first weeks when adjusting to new fatherhood, getting barely any sleep, and more worried about doing the right thing for baby, this honestly didn't even register. Even now, looking back, those first weeks were like a brain fog. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your son has the right to be referred to by his name. Pick a random name and start calling your mother-in-law that. Let's see how she likes it. Hi Dave, how are you? This is brilliant. Not the a-hole. She's not respecting any of you. You've asked her to not do that, and she hasn't. She's doing it on purpose for her own reasons. Not the a-hole. You did what was right. Although you and your wife might have to deal with the after effect of not getting an extra hand. But at least you set things straight, not just in the name aspect but in other aspects that are yet to come. No gain without pain. Not the a-hole. Calling a child by a completely different name isn't really a nickname. What is she trying to accomplish with this? Sherman isn't his name. It will never be his name. Did she think if she used it enough he would respond to that over his actual name? Personally, I think you should have been more direct from the beginning of her using the incorrect name, but you definitely aren't the a-hole. I get why your wife is upset at losing mother-in-law's help, but she shouldn't have allowed her mother's behavior to get so bad in the first place. Also, your mother-in-law couldn't be your third sets of hands forever anyway. Seeing as she couldn't respect something as basic as the name you chose for your child, what makes you think she'll respect your future decisions as parents? Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my parents we were adopting a child? I, 42 male, live with my wife, 40 female. We were married 12 years ago. My parents, my mother in particular, went out of their way to try and ruin it for us. My mother demanded an invite when my wife went dress shopping, then made fun of my wife when she tried on dresses and called one of the bridesmaids fat. My wife told her to leave. She tried to refuse, but one of the bridal attendants booted her out. She tried to post this long Facebook post about how awful she was treated, but she deleted it after I posted that it was funny how she left out, how she made fun of her and called one of her bridesmaids fat. My wife stonewalled her from any other wedding planning. My mother complained, but my wife just said she had a chance and she blew it. My mother hates that my wife won't be cowed by her like my sister-in-law is. My wife just doesn't get two flips about my mother or father or their boundary-stomping ways. My father gave a drunken speech at the wedding that was mortifyingly inappropriate and ended up getting himself and my equally drunk mother booted from the reception. We went so low contact it was practically non-existent after that. Present issue? We are in the final stages of adopting a child we've been fostering for the last few years. My parents have found out about this somehow and have been blowing up my phone since. They aren't happy about it. Not because I didn't tell them, but because how dare the child not be the same skin color as us. My father accused us of getting a black market baby. I just hang up the phone and block them. But our child, who we got as an older child in foster care, asked if he was causing us problems. I said absolutely not. My parents were just awful people. Now, they're having other family members contact us to try and get information from my parents who are spinning some tale about how we're denying them access to their grandchild. They're conveniently leaving out the part where they threw a fit he was a different color than us and accused us of getting him off the black market. When I tell people what actually happened, their tune changes usually, but my brother, their golden child, is up my about how much of an a-hole I'm being to our parents and how I need to stop letting my wife brainwash me against them. I told him to go crawl back up our parents' butt and blocked him. I don't think I'm the a-hole here at all. But my parents and brother and a couple other family members think I'm the a-hole for withholding information from them. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. I was on your side within the first couple of sentences. Not an a-hole. Some people think that family is family and absolutely needs to be involved, when that is not the case. It is better to not have grandparents than have toxic ones. By the way, thank you so much for adopting an older child. As a kid that aged out of the foster system and had to join the army so that I had somewhere to live, most of us in the system knew that by the time we hit 7 to 8, we were stuck in the system until aging out. Good on y'all. It is better to have not grandparents than have toxic ones. Spot on. Family is what you make it. Live well, Opie. Enjoy your found family and the one you created. Not an a-hole. Here's the thing. When you act horribly and top it off by being racist, people will reasonably take steps to reduce unnecessary contact with you. Congratulations on the adoption. Currently not an a-hole. You would be the a-hole if you subjected your child to your parents, though. Your son should not have to go through life wondering why they're being treated differently from his or her cousins, and why grandma and grandpa make passive-aggressive remarks under their breath. Good luck. You and your wife are doing a wonderful thing in giving a child a home in the future. Not the a-hole. My sister is a different skin color than the rest of my family. My dad's stepdad is an awful human being and made several comments about it, and made her feel less than. We no longer go to their home as a whole family and he is not allowed to talk to her. We had to explain that him being an a-hole is in no way her fault. It's his responsibility, and it's our responsibility as the people who love her to not subject her to racists and bigots. Especially if your kid is a teenager, please keep explaining that your family is awful and you adopted them to give them a family that loves them, not to subject them to more toxic people. Be prepared to cut your brother off too. Tell him, I know you disagree with my decision, but this is my child and I know what is best for them. If you can't agree to drop this and let me handle it the way I think is best, I will have to put our relationship on pause for the time being. And hold firm to those boundaries. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Final update. Roommate cut my hair without my consent, ended up cutting herself, and is threatening to call the police on me. Original story. This just happened maybe 5 minutes ago, and I'm scrambling trying to figure out what to do before the police are called. I'm living off campus with a roommate that I was paired with through our college. We had a disagreement about her paying her portion of bills and rent on time, and her boyfriend basically living here without our landlord's permission, which violates our lease. Well, everything seemed to be fine later on, so we're hanging out in my room and she asks me to braid her hair. Afterwards, she offers to braid mine. She goes to grab hair ties or something. I'm not paying attention as I'm on my phone. Well, apparently, she actually grabbed scissors. I decided to cut my hair as revenge for pissing her off. I'm expecting her to braid my hair, when suddenly right next to my ear she cuts a huge chunk of my hair off. I freak out, and instinctively turn around while batting her hand away. Her hand flies into her face and the scissors cut her cheek quite deep. They were expensive shears, I guess, so they were very sharp. Now she's saying I harmed her and threatened to call the police. I told her I would give her the money she wanted and we didn't have to call the police, but I had to pawn some things so I needed a minute to gather some stuff to sell to get the money. I just did this to buy some time. I'm not giving her anything. Do I wait for her to call the police and explain when they get here? I considered calling the police first, but I don't want to incriminate myself. I really didn't mean for her to get hurt. All I did was turn around and push her hand away before I could even process that she had shears in her hand. Either way, I don't want to live with this psycho anymore. Is there anything I can do? I have a copy of our lease that I'm going to look over. We're on one lease, but she's just a co-signer as she was 17 when we signed the lease, but has since turned 18. Our lease is up in August. Also, this might sound stupid, but she ran off with my chunk of hair. Could the police make her give it back to me? It's very long, and I'd at least like to donate it, as I'll have to cut the rest of my hair to match since the psycho had 1/3 of my hair in her hand. Thank you. Now for the top advice before reading the first update. She violated you first. Call the police and explain your situation. It likely is very noticeable your hair is cut. You can also go to file for an emergency order of protection against her, outside of vacating the premises on your own. I would suggest rephrasing that, because first implies that Opie also reciprocated the act on the roommate, which is not the case. The roommate harmed Opie, and Opie acted in self-defense. Opie did not harm the roommate at all. Saying she did it to you first implies that Opie did it to the roommate second. Okay, thank you for the info. Do you know if this would be considered a crime if she didn't inflict bodily harm, or would this fall under battery? I'm going to call the police before she gets a chance, but I want to know what to expect in case the officer tries to say this is a civil matter. I don't expect her to be thrown in jail, but I want some leverage on her so I don't have to live with her anymore. Your school will almost definitely have resources for you, especially if they paired you two together. Look at your Westlife website to see if they have any off-campus student resources. Regardless, please call the police. Okay, thank you. The problem is that I go to a crappy state college that doesn't have dorms, but they have a program thing where they match students together who are looking for roommates off campus, so I don't think they can get directly involved. I can't find anything helpful in my school's website, but I'm just going to talk to an advisor before the campus closes and hope that they can deal with her and maybe suspend her or something. I don't know. I'm looking into a protective order, but that would be hard to enforce if we're still going to class on the same campus, right? So she harmed you, lied about it, and threatened you, and you're wondering if you should file a police report? Well, the first two officers didn't believe me and pretty much said I was lucky I wasn't being arrested because my roommate is the one with a huge cut on her face. It's pretty discouraging. The evidence is on her side, except for a short audio clip of her yelling and freaking out. And now for the first update/edit. Jack squat happened. I called a non-emergency line right after I posted this, and they sent out 2 officers. I made a mistake of telling my roommate that I had called the police and that she had committed a crime. She must have realized that it looked pretty bad and rethought her strategy. She disappeared into the bathroom for a while until the police got here, and when she came out, her hair was cut, but like a real haircut instead of hack job she gave me. The officers separated us and got our sides of the story. She told them that we had agreed to cut each other's hair, and that she pulled a little prank and decided to cut my hair a bit shorter than originally planned. I got freaked out, and that's how she got cut. She convinced them that she had apologized, but I was looking for a way to get her out of the house and was lying. She showed them our text where she just asks if I want to do her hair without specifying what we were doing, and all the earlier texts where we're fighting about money and I threatened to get the landlord involved. She even showed them the hair in the trash can. I guess my story sounded less believable with all the evidence against me, and in the end they didn't seem to give a crap. They said this was a civil matter, and as long as she didn't feel like a crime was committed, that they were done. I didn't want to press my luck and get arrested, so I kept my mouth shut. So I was treated like a criminal, and now this insane girl is outside my room threatening to destroy all my things. I recorded some of her rampage through the door, and I'm collecting any messages that sound even remotely threatening that her and her boyfriend have sent me. I'm taking pictures of all of my stuff in case she destroys my property. The office of the apartment just closed, so I can't go to my landlord till tomorrow, and I don't have any way to contact him directly. What the hell do I do now? Can I go to the police station and file a report even though the police just came here and decided to believe her? Now for the second update. I just wanted to thank everyone for all your help and advice. If I had it posted here, I probably would have waited for my roommate, referred to as Jane from here to avoid confusion, to call the cops, which almost definitely would have screwed me as Jane turned out to be scary good at lying and manipulating. So yesterday, I got off Reddit and got to collecting evidence and making a script, so I knew exactly what to say when I went to talk to the police again. My neighbor that we share a wall with came over after hearing Jane flipping out, and I explained everything. Neighbor offered to watch my cat and said she'll call me if it seemed like Jane was going to do anything crazy while I went to the station. I packed all of my most valuable things in my car, took pictures of everything else, and then recorded a quick video of me telling Jane that I was going out and she did not have permission to go into my room or touch my things, just in case she wrecked something and said I did it or something. I don't know. I told the police about everything and brought my copy of the police report, showed them harassing messages Jane had sent in the past, messages proving we often braid each other's hair. Probably unnecessary, but I was trying to prove that I agreed to let her braid my hair, and I'd never let her cut it. And proof that I'm a cosmetology student, freelance makeup artist, and occasional hair model. So I would never let someone who isn't trained cut my hair. It is an important part of my job/hobby. The officers I spoke to this time surprisingly took me seriously, but before I could even finish talking to them, my neighbor sends me a video of Jane tossing my open train case onto the corner and stomping on some of my very expensive makeup as it falls out. I'm an idiot and forget that one thing that is important to my livelihood right now in the bathroom. But I was in a hurry and grabbed my personal makeup kit without thinking. Details aside, Crazy Witch tossed out thousands of dollars worth of my property. 2 new officers escorted me back to my apartment, and when we got there, Jane immediately turned on the waterworks. Surprisingly, she was cooperative and left with one officer to talk at the station, I guess, while the other helped me scare away the vultures trying to steal my makeup off the street and bring it inside. I noticed my prescribed Wellbutrin and Xanax bottles were missing from the bathroom. I know, stupid place to keep them, but who the heck steals Wellbutrin? And the officer said they would question her. So I didn't hear anything after that, but this morning I looked at the public records for my county and saw Jane's mugshot with charges for a crime with a deadly weapon and malicious mischief. I guess she had been booked late last night, but I checked Facebook a bit ago, and Jane had posted a truly classy selfie, middle finger and all. So does that mean she's posted bail? Anyways, I brought all this info and the police reports to my landlord this morning, and he pretty much told me tough luck. He said that I still need to have the full rent payment, and that if Jane wouldn't willingly move out, he couldn't evict her without evicting me too, since we're on one lease. Do I just need to pay for everything and then sue her in small claims court? What do I do about all my damaged cosmetics? The police are aware of Jane damaging my stuff, but they haven't heard anything back. I'm totally lost as to what happens now. Will this go to court, and will I need to attend? Are the police going to get back to me as to what I need to do next? They took my statement, but that's it. The good news is that she isn't allowed on campus at the college we both go to until this is settled, and if she returns, I'll transfer to another campus nearby. Also, she hasn't attempted to come back to the apartment, and if she does, I have a friend here with me. My landlord said I have to let Jane in if she returns though, even if I get a protective order. That sounds like BS, and I have an appointment on Monday to talk to a lawyer who will hopefully help me figure out what to do next. I'd like for it to be sooner, but it's free legal consultation through my college, so I guess they're busy? Anyway, sorry to ramble. I'm just not sure what to expect until I can speak with a lawyer. Now for more advice before the final update. Based on the arrest, file for a restraining order. Jane is still responsible for her half of the rent, but she won't be allowed to go there. Also take the evidence you have, including the mugshot and restraining order if you get one, to the school's roommate-pairing people. Ask them to find someone else to share the place with you. Let them deal with reassigning Jane to a new roommate. You'll be on the hook for full rent, along with Jane, but good luck collecting, until you can find another roommate and arrange for your landlord to modify the lease. It could go to court, or she may take a plea bargain. If it does go to court, you will probably be called as a witness. This could be months from now. Take some pictures of your unwanted haircut just in case it goes to court. Save the video of Jane trashing your makeup. Save everything, basically. Thanks for the reply. When I went to discuss everything at my school, they immediately got me in contact with another student who needs a roommate and can move in ASAP. Plus I have classes with her and she seems normal, but my landlord's saying there's nothing I can do. He said he can't kick Jane out unless he evicts both of us, and that the only way someone else can move in is if Jane sublets her room out. Either way, I don't know what to do with her stuff. My landlord just kept talking about bailment or something, and how he has to hold on to her property for a while even if she abandons it. You could also file a small claims lawsuit for the property that she trashed, the cost of a cosmetologist to fix her hair, and her share of the rent if she doesn't pay. My landlord said I have to let Jane in if she returns though, even if I get a protective order. I believe that your landlord is in error. A court order from a judge to stay away will override any rights she has under the lease. If you get a protective order when she returns, call 911. Jane, who you arrested for harming me with a deadly weapon and against whom I have a protective order, is trying to enter my residence right now. Should elicit a relatively rapid response. I strongly recommend that you get a protective order ASAP. Thank you so much for the advice. I called yesterday and tried to get an emergency protective order, but I was told that I had to apply for one within 12 hours of the arrest, and this was maybe 15 or 16 hours after. So I'm getting a restraining order against her and just hoping I can avoid her until then. Now for the final update. Well, this isn't a very interesting update, but I figured you guys would like to know that justice was sort of served. I just wanted to thank everyone for all the responses on my first 2 posts. It helped me a lot. Especially to the people who advised me to be proactive and persistent in contacting the police, and to the person who mentioned renter's insurance, which I didn't even realize I had. Thanks, Dad. So everything happened much quicker than I anticipated, and it's all pretty much settled. Also, I'm not sure how much detail I should give since this all just happened, but Jane took a plea bargain, not sure if this is the correct terminology, and plead guilty to misdemeanor crime and destruction of property. I'm a bit upset that she pretty much got a slap on her wrist with the sentence and fine she received, but I suppose it's worth it because she cooperated in breaking our lease. I filed for a restraining order against her and filed a claim with my insurance company for my damaged and stolen makeup, which was thankfully covered by my renter's insurance. Jane's parents moved all of her stuff out of the apartment yesterday and gave me a little money to cover her portion of the rent that she owes me. It wasn't nearly enough, but they seem like surprisingly nice people, and I feel bad that they have to deal with such a nutcase of a daughter. I found a new roommate, and we're signing a new lease this week. So, aside from being flat freaking broke now and getting an unwanted haircut, everything turned out alright. Last story is titled, My 20 female boyfriend's 20 male friend 20 male was inside my apartment when I came home last night. Boyfriend says I need to chill out about it. I'm 20 female. When I came home last night, I noticed my kitchen light was on. I leave when it's bright outside, so I never have it on in the morning when I leave. Then I heard a toilet flush and I immediately freaked out. The only person other than me that has a key to my apartment is my boyfriend, 20 male, but he's away for training. He's in the military. But it ended up being my boyfriend's friend and he was immediately like, calm down, calm down. Your boyfriend said I could come here to change. And I was like, what? And this guy said he had a job interview near my apartment, but he didn't want to go all the way uptown to his apartment to change because he works close here. So my boyfriend said it was okay if he came to my place and showered and changed. He said he got my apartment key from my boyfriend's place. I immediately called my boyfriend and I was like, why wouldn't you call and tell me about this? And my boyfriend was like, I didn't tell him he could do it specifically to him, but I mentioned in passing before I left that you lived around there. And he said he might have an issue, so I said that might be a solution. But I didn't explicitly tell him he could go over today. And I was like, why are you offering my apartment to anyone? And he was like, well, I didn't know he was going to do it. So I don't know why you're getting mad at me. You need to chill. And I think I'm completely justified in being mad. But now I'm second guessing myself. Edit. I took the key from the friend, so I have the key back. My boyfriend's apartment is near the friend's uptown. I think the friend took the key when he was hanging out with my boyfriend's roommates. He gave someone your key in passing, but not directly? I smell BS. Yep, she said he got it from the boyfriend's apartment. But even with that knowledge, how would he know it was that key? And her apartment address and number to enter? That's not just in passing info. Exactly. Unless he already knew where Opie lived. Doubt it. He had to have asked the boyfriend. That means the boyfriend told him where the key was and gave him her address and apartment number. Please get your locks changed as soon as possible. This is not okay. I think I'm going to. Absolutely do this. And check your place for cameras. You don't know if your boyfriend or this guy made copies, and his reason for being there is suspicious AF. Change your locks. Don't be naive. If he's letting randoms go into your home, you cannot trust him to have not made a duplicate key. Change your locks and dump him. He doesn't respect you. He doesn't value you. He doesn't even give a damn about you feeling safe in your home. You need to protect yourself from this man.